When someone is new to fighting games, there's a few factors that can contribute to intimidating the player. Combos, ranked players, and many more. But one that usually gets to me is a massive roster. Now, I can't speak for the average fighting game player, as I only talk to one fighting game player, but with 36 characters, this probably doesn't seem like too huge of a cast, especially if you've played this game and gotten good at it. You'll know most of the moves and matchups. However, to someone who has been playing fighting games for maybe 3 or 4 years now, I look at this and think, oh god. At the same time, there are probably others who think the opposite, who could see a large list of fighters and go, oh hell yeah, I have so many options! But to someone like me, who hasn't even figured out what my favorite character archetype is yet, this is a bit much. But that's when I use my age-old strategy of playing the combo challenges to see which ones I do the best with. I use this method when trying to learn Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, causing me to try maining Chris Redfield, Frank West, and Hulk, only to realize that fun combos doesn't always mean easy neutral. It feels a bit different in Blazblue though. A lot of the trials take advantage of more situations and set play, as there's a lot more than just 10 trials for each character. With that being said, this roster still feels incredibly intimidating, simply from the amount and how unfamiliar I am with everyone. If I were to play this game for a long time and learn how all the characters act and play, this roster probably wouldn't feel as huge. Like I said though, as a new player, I feel like the choice I'm trying to make is who looks the coolest, or hottest? I don't know, but let's talk about some more large roster sizes. The first game that usually comes to my mind when I think of large fighting game rosters is... Wait, no, I said fighting game. Alright, there we go. Street Fighter games have always had a variety of characters, each feeling incredibly unique from each other, even if they share the same movesets. This is great, because you'll likely be able to find a character to enjoy due to how different everyone feels. There's tons of playstyles. Then Ultra Street Fighter 4 said, you like Shotos? In all seriousness, this game has a sick roster. With a whopping 44 characters, you're bound to find someone you can have fun with. But this kinda suffers the same problem I personally have. There's lots of characters to choose from, yes, but I have a hard time deciding what character I want to try learning. In defense of its size, if 4 isn't your first Street Fighter, you will easily recognize most of the characters, so this is barely a problem to the average player. Even with this in mind, I just couldn't decide who I enjoyed. However, I'm just gonna say this is on me. I am just no good at this game. My combo challenge strategy does not do anything here, considering I only ever completed one character's trials. Street Fighter V was definitely more my speed. The way it played felt a little easier to me, and its roster had one more character than 4 by the end. Another pretty big and varied cast, but thankfully it was pretty easy to figure out who I wanted to play in this one, thanks to one very important factor. While I did buy this game before I watched anyone play it, it took about a year for me to even get into it due to the fact I just didn't know who I wanted to play. That is, until the last season of the game arrived and I discovered an FGC member doing saucy things with Oro, Brian F. I'm aware others play this character, but he was the first one I stumbled upon in the algorithm. When watching the combos he did, I thought to myself, shit, easy and fun looking combos? On a Street Fighter character? Found my main, and then I proceeded to never even play this game online. Stuck to arcade mode and sparring with a friend, Street Fighter was just too intimidating of a series for me to try playing online. Oh, we'll get to you later. A type of fighting game I think of when big rosters come up are team fighting games, specifically the Marvel vs. Capcom series. While these games usually have a fairly large cast, it makes sense due to there being multiple characters to play as at once. There's loads of team variety and synergies to create. Plus, with a cast of both Marvel and Capcom characters, it's pretty hard to find a character you don't know, so it's easy to base your picks off of who you know and like as a character. Though, these games are a bit tainted by having an unchanging strict meta. Marvel 3 does suffer from this problem a bit, but 2 was way worse with it. I watched a tournament for this game that just happened a year or two ago, and I saw the same 5 characters on every single team. Plus, while I tried to learn these games, I had a lot of problems with picking who to play because, oh lord, these games are difficult. They're a lot of fun and I adore them, but when choosing who I enjoy from their respective series, their gameplay doesn't always appeal to me, and I end up wanting to play someone else instead. To this day, I still don't have a solid teammate in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Regardless, I am going to keep trying. This game is just way too important to me. It's so fun to watch, and honestly, even if I'm losing, it's just so fun to play. Then Infinite shit the bed. Listen, I know everyone and their mother makes fun of MvC Infinite, but man, this roster is just not very good. The gameplay is pretty fun, even if I'm not used to it at all, but the characters that are missing due to licensing, like the X-Men cast and others, just feels weird, and the DLC split is pathetic. So instead, we move on to another team game, Dragon Ball FighterZ. On launch, this game had a decently sized roster, but when accounting for all DLC up to this point, good god. Like the MvC series, this roster size makes sense due to the team fighting aspect. Plus, Dragon Ball Z and superfans will have a field day with this cast. The only other game that comes to the top of my head with this situation is JoJo All-Star Battle, which is nearly just as fun to me and has a great selection of characters that any JoJo fan will get behind, as long as you hate Part 8. But back to DBFZ, loads of fan favorites are here, like all the duplicates. Jokes aside, I think this is almost the perfect roster for a Dragon Ball Z traditional fighting game. The Budokai Tenkaichi and Xenoverse games may have a crazy amount of characters, opening more opportunity to appeal to literally every Dragon Ball fan. That size would realistically never work for a balanced 2D fighting game. Like, they have a hard time balancing this one. Would you really trust anyone to balance it with a Xenoverse cast? This is probably the only fighting game where I find some enjoyment playing as every character. Although, to be fair, this was the first fighting game I poured over 1,500 hours into. And I'm still terrible at it. I love every character here, and while I don't have a difficult time deciding who I want to play because everyone's hard, I have a problem because everyone's just so much fun to me. I want to main Android 18 one day, Beerus the next, Blue Vegeta, Jiren, the list goes on. To me, this shows how good this game is, regardless of what you think of his current state. The roster may be big, but its variety makes the fun never ending. That sentence went hard to me until I realized I could say it about literally all the games I've talked about so far. I think that just shows how magical fighting games are. When you really get the mechanics and playstyle of a game down, no matter how big the roster is, you can find fun with a lot of the characters. Alright, let's talk about this. I'm a Nintendo-loving Zoomer, so I'm obviously a Smash fan. Played it since Melee, and I adored seeing the roster grow and grow, and there's no doubt that Ultimates is the most hype we've ever gotten. Overall, Smash Ultimate is the greatest game for a Smash fan, which is why I need to put an asterisk when I call myself that. I'm mostly kidding. I love playing this game with friends. It's always an endlessly fun time. But when I tried getting into this game to learn a character and improve, I just really have a hard time picking one. Don't get me wrong, this is the perfect roster for a casual Smash game, just due to the fact that no matter who you are, you're going to recognize at least 5 of the characters here. It makes it way easier to find someone to play than any other fighting game out there. Maybe a little too easy? There are a lot of characters, 89 to be exact, but to me personally, a lot of them just kind of feel been there, done that. I just can't personally wrap my head around getting into the game competitively, but that's mostly because I'm horrible at this game too. Even at a casual level, I suck complete ass at most platform fighters, and this one is no exception. I love fast-paced and combo-heavy games, so I've never been good at floatier ones where I just kind of feel like I'm swinging around hitting nothing. But that's what I get for not trying hard enough. According to my Switch, I only have 10 hours in this game, and while that feels inaccurate, it makes sense. Maybe one day I'll try learning more and improving, but unless I have a coach or something, that probably won't happen. But I'm getting a bit off topic. Like I said, this roster is a Smash fan's dream, but in my personal, possibly disagreeable opinion, a new Smash game could do well from a Nintendo first-party focused, smaller cast. Just to flesh out the characters, make them feel more unique, you know? I know it's not viable at all for Nintendo to do this. This game's hype was huge for the base cast alone, and adding DLC made it even bigger. This strategy clearly works for sales, and fans seem to adore it. But I'm just saying, I feel like if we make another game like this with even more characters than this one, it'll start feeling like Brawlhalla. Speaking of platform fighters, Nick All-Star Brawl 2 has a pretty decently sized cast and familiar roster, at least compared to Multiverses, Fighting Game of the Year by the way, and much more impressive than Fraymakers, with a whopping at least 10 characters. Is this something to brag about? There's like 1,000 assist characters, man, most of which are more deserving to be playable than half the current roster. The only character that felt truly exciting to see was Octodad, man. I don't mean to sound ungrateful, it's cool that we're getting this game at all, but with the concept of a platform fighter with indie game representation, I was expecting way more. Plus, there's only like 5 characters to play as right now. I personally would have been content with waiting way longer for this game to come out so all characters could have at least been finished. At this point, I'd rather stick to Rivals of Aether modding. But while we're on the topic of small rosters, I realized I should probably talk about Street Fighter VI now. When this game came out, I saw a few people saying the cast was pitifully small. when to be honest, this is probably my favorite Street Fighter roster we've ever gotten. Everyone feels incredibly unique from each other, and no character feels truly awful. The new characters are interesting, the returning ones are sick as hell. Ken, I love everyone here. If only I wasn't trash at this game. I've done placements for like 3 different characters at this point, and I still can't figure out which one I want to keep going with. This is mostly because I'm still relatively new to fighting games. I don't have good neutral at all. But also, my first fighting game I sunk time into was a hyper fast-paced steal-your-turn combo-heavy anime fighter, so I am really bad at Street Fighter's slower combos and neutral. Despite all this, I really want to keep playing this game. It's been the most fun Street Fighter I've ever played. And while the roster may be small right now, I quite like having a condensed one where everyone truly feels unique. Can't wait for Akuma. Honestly, everything I complimented Street Fighter 6's roster for could be said about most fighting games with small to decently sized casts. Skullgirls, Them's Fightin' Herds, Guilty Gear Strive, all of these don't have a massive amount of characters to choose from, but it makes each of them feel that much more interesting. Every character you play as will feel like a completely different experience. And that's not to say huge rosters are a bad thing, it's really exciting to see large varied casts. Street Fighter 4 and 5 started out with small ones, so when they started adding more, it added more opportunities to get creative with new movesets and designs. That's kind of the mindset with fighting game DLC and expanding a roster as a whole. Once the base is out there, you can just go wild with it until you've truly decided it's enough. The reason I've been intimidated by certain fighting games is because I wasn't there when they launched. I only got into them well after they were almost done adding stuff to them. So hey, in 5 or 6 years when Street Fighter 6 has like 50 characters, I'm sure someone else will have the same experience I had with the previous 2 titles. And hey, if a roster really intimidates me that badly, my solution is to watch some tournaments, see who I think looks fun, give them a shot. If you're related to anything I've said throughout this video, I'd recommend you do the same. It can really make a difference. Okay, I'm ending this video with a lightning round. Tekken 7, pretty big roster, but I only played Akuma, so it didn't matter. Mortal Kombat 1, pretty cool and unique cast, everyone's fairly fun, but if your character is good, get ready to drop them in a month. Mortal Kombat 11, pretty good, but the game is weird. Mortal Kombat X, pretty good, but actually no, that's about it. Smash Melee would be nice if more than 5 characters revival, plus I have a bias against Melee players for filling the Evo chat with sleep emotes during Marvel 3 Grand Finals. Melee players? Put down your GameCube controller, fill out a job application, and take a walk outside. I promise it'll feel great. Alright, I think that's everything. Am I missing any game? Oh my god.
Perfect cast.